A monster in the sky, desperate waiting on the ground, but sometimes salvation emerges from the most impossible storm. Under the dusty, scorching sun of Afghanistan, a routine day at Eagle's Nest Air Base was nearing its end. The monotonous hum of helicopter rotors was a familiar melody across the base. Heavy armored cargo planes were landing, reconnaissance drones taking off. Everything proceeded with almost boring regularity, until Captain Anya Valkyrie Sharma's final patrol mission of the day. Anya, in her mid-30s, was a woman with strong shoulders, a determined jawline, and intelligent amber eyes, topped with blonde hair. She had become one with her modified AH-64 Apache, call sign Iron Serpent. Whispers about her circulated. Valkyrie finds her way even in a storm, they would say. As she moved towards the cockpit, she did so with unmatched precision and serenity. Beside her was her weapons and communications specialist, Lieutenant Finn O'Malley, a young but experienced soldier. Both walked towards the Iron Serpent for their final mission. The task seemed simple, a routine patrol over a mountain pass in friendly territory. It was a critical mission due to the recent increase in terrorist activity, but usually involved merely observing and reporting. A routine patrol mission in the unforgiving deserts of Afghanistan suddenly turned into a nightmare. A special forces team was completely surrounded by the enemy in the middle of a violent sandstorm. Desperate whispers crackling over the radio plunged the command center into despair. But in that moment, when everyone had given up hope, Captain Anya Valkyrie Sharma challenged the storm with her Apache helicopter, Iron Serpent. With zero visibility and radars blinded, how did she accomplish an impossible rescue operation solely with her intuition? This was the epic tale of a pilot's intellect and courage. As the Iron Serpent lifted off, the sky above the base was still clear. Anya focused on the radar, scanning the surrounding mountainous terrain. Finn checked the communication systems, listening to routine reports from ground patrols. Everything was as expected, until a thin cloud of sand appeared on the distant horizon. This was no ordinary wind. It was the harbinger of a massive, rapidly approaching sandstorm. The command center raised the alarm when they noticed the storm's speed and size. "Valkyrie, return to base immediately. The sandstorm is approaching fast. Visibility will drop to 0, came the command. But at that very moment, another urgent call tore through their headsets. "Echo 4 team, we're ambushed, under heavy fire. We have casualties. I repeat, heavy casualties. Location, western entrance of Shura Valley." Echo 4 team, commanded by Sergeant Jax Riley, was an elite special forces team. Their position was now directly in the path of the approaching sandstorm. The command center was thrown into chaos. Radars couldn't pinpoint the team's location clearly due to the storm. Air support was impossible. Ground rescue teams would take hours to reach them, if the storm even subsided. Colonel Maxwell, base commander, reached Anya on the radio. "Valkyrie, I'm sorry for Echo 4 team, but intervention in this storm is impossible. Return immediately. I repeat, return." But only one thought occupied Anya's mind: to save that team. A steely, resolute expression appeared on Captain Sharma's face. She was not just a helicopter. She was a final beacon of hope born in the midst of despair. "Finn," she said, her voice calm despite the howl of the storm, "visibility will drop to 0. Radars will be blind, but my Apache, Iron Serpent, finds its way even in a storm." Anya turned the Apache's nose toward Shura Valley, where the sandstorm was rising and Echo 4 team was pinned down. This was an act of defiance, a direct contravention of an order. And more than a rescue operation, it was the birth of a legend. As the Iron Serpent ascended into the sky, which the sandstorm had begun to swallow, shock and anger reigned in the command center. Colonel Maxwell, clutching the radio, shouted, "Valkyrie, return to base immediately! That's an order!" But only the howl of the wind and the hum of the Iron Serpent's rotors came through the radio. Anya, with Finn, knew their decision had set them on an irreversible path. As they plunged into the storm, even the robust fuselage of the Apache helicopter began to shake violently. The sky had transformed into a hellscape of orange and brown hues. Visibility dropped to 0 in seconds. Radars went blind. GPS signals cut out. Instruments seemed to go wild. This was an environment where no human-made machine should have been flying. But for Anya, the situation was different. She could feel every whisper of the storm, every air current. The storm was almost an extension of her. Finn, sweating in the co-pilot's seat, shouted, "We're flying blind, Valkyrie! We could hit a mountain at any moment!" But Anya's gaze was steady. Her Special Forces training instincts and years of experience in Afghanistan were her greatest sensors. She was flying the aircraft not just with her hands, but with her intuition, her soul. The ancient knowledge, her father, we can add a fictional father figure to the story as a subtle backstory element for her unique intuition, had taught her as a child, like listening to the sound of the wind, feeling the vibrations of the earth, now merged with the most advanced technology. As they approached Shura Valley, a faint sound of gunfire was heard over the radio, then it cut out. Echo 4 team was still alive, but they were trapped. Anya slowed the rotors, hovering the helicopter almost motionless. She was using the chaos created by the storm as a shield. The enemy, believing no aircraft could fly in such a storm, was exposed. Anya activated the Apache's thermal imaging system. Although smoke and sand obstructed vision, the thermal signatures clearly showed the positions of enemy soldiers and the team. The enemies had pinned the team down in a narrow canyon, trying to neutralize them with superior firepower. Anya's heart ached. Jax and his team were cornered. "Finn, what's our ordnance status?" Anya asked. Finn replied, "Minimal, Valkyrie, not enough for this many enemies." Anya smiled. "It won't need to be." She plunged the Iron Serpent down from an unexpected angle. From the edge of the canyon, the Apache's infamous, terrifying roar echoed through the sandstorm like the bellow of a monster. Enemy soldiers were baffled by what hit them. They faced a threat they couldn't see, but whose presence they felt to their very core. Although Anya activated the Apache's weapon systems, instead of using ordnance, she decided to use the helicopter itself as a psychological weapon. She passed over enemy positions at such a low altitude and high speed that the powerful rotor wash and sonic effect scattered enemy equipment and destabilized their positions. Many enemies, in a panic, began to retreat, seeking cover. For them, this was an invisible hell. However, the enemy commander was astute. He realized the helicopter wasn't firing and ordered his soldiers to counterattack. Anya's Iron Serpent came under heavy machine gun fire. Alarm lights flashed in the cockpit and the fuselage shook violently. Finn shouted over the radio, "You're hit, taking damage." But Anya just smiled. This was her game. The circle around the team was broken. When Sergeant Jax Riley and his team finally realized the firing around them had ceased, they looked up at the sky. Through the sandstorm, a blurred silhouette appeared, the Iron Serpent. The helicopter skillfully blocked the enemies targeting them, almost forming a shield around them. This was a miracle in the midst of despair. Anya danced with her Iron Serpent amidst enemy fire. Her goal was not to destroy the enemy, but merely to keep them away from the team and open a window of opportunity for rescue. The fuel gauge was rapidly dropping. These maneuvers were pushing the helicopter to its limits. Finn, from the co-pilot seat, constantly warned, "Valkyrie, fuel critical! We need to return!" "Not yet, Finn," Anya replied. "First, we get them out." She made one final maneuver to break the enemy's encirclement around the team. She flew the Apache through the densest point of enemy concentration at an incredibly low altitude, almost touching the ground. The immense air displacement created by the rotors literally blew the enemies away. This was less like an air attack and more like a supernatural event. Panicked enemies scattered, abandoning their weapons and equipment. Sergeant Jax Riley shouted over his radio, "Valkyrie, the circle is broken! The circle is broken! You can land for extraction!" Anya smiled. The mission was complete. She landed the helicopter near the team's position. As the rotor wash dispersed the sandstorm, Jax and his team ran towards the Iron Serpent. Their faces were covered in dust and exhaustion, but their eyes held pure gratitude. Jax looked at Anya as she disembarked from the helicopter. "Captain," he said, his voice filled with disbelief, "how did you do that? Visibility was 0. No one could have come." Anya, with a tired smile, replied, "There's always a way, Sergeant." The wounded team members were loaded onto the helicopter. Anya checked her Apache for damage. There were bullet holes in the fuselage, and a rotor blade had sustained minor damage, but the aircraft could still fly. Upon returning to Eagle's Nest Air Base, Anya and Finn were greeted as heroes. All base personnel saluted them, witnessing this incredible rescue story. However, the situation at the command center was different. Colonel Maxwell subjected Anya to a stern interrogation. "Colonel Sharma, you disobeyed orders. You risked yourself and your crew. Furthermore, you damaged the Apache." Anya maintained her composure. "Sir," she stated, "that team was going to die. Visibility was 0 in the storm, yes. But I am one with my Apache. I read the wind, I felt the storm. And I used the Apache as a shield to shatter the enemy's psychology. I saved the team without firing a single shot." Colonel Maxwell and the other commanders were stunned by Jax Riley's report, the radar recordings, and Anya's detailed explanation. Everything confirmed Anya's account. Finally, Colonel Maxwell took a deep breath. "Captain Sharma," he said, his voice filled with admiration, "today you didn't just save a team, you made the impossible possible. We need pilots like you." Instead of disciplinary action, Anya was honored with a special commendation, the Sandstorm Rescuer. Captain Anya Valkyrie Sharma's story became a legend in the Army aviation units. She was not just a pilot, but a symbol who defied the wrath of nature and the ruthlessness of the enemy. The Iron Serpent Apache had transformed into an invisible Valkyrie in her hands. Anya began training the next generation of Apache pilots, teaching them not only how to fly, but also how to listen to their intuition, to remain calm even in impossible conditions, and to use the aircraft as an extension of their very being. Today, Captain Anya Valkyrie Sharma continues her duty in the deserts of Afghanistan. Her story powerfully emphasizes that the greatest heroes don't always make headlines, that sometimes in the toughest moments, against all odds, they unleash their true potential. She is not just a pilot, she is a living symbol of courage, intellect, and humanity's triumph over fury.